Hi, welcome to another edition of Race Stories. On our way to the world record, really, with Billy and Sam. So this story is Niagara Falls edition. Well, car. I guess we're driving edition, covering Niagara Falls and Cassadaga Man. Make sure we pronounce that properly.
And that is how you pronounce it. We asked.
We have confirmed with the locals.
Kind of like Talladega, Cassadaga.
The indigenous peoples gave us approval, so we're good.
Let's talk about getting there. Let's talk about where it is. So we flew into Buffalo, and if you don't know, Buffalo is really close to Niagara Falls. There's a city of Niagara Falls, which is kind of small. I mean, I guess, but and then the falls are right there. So, tell us, you got any Niagara Falls stories?
That was really cool. If you get the chance, I'd certainly recommend the trip up to Niagara. That's a lot of water. I didn't know that 4 out of the 5 Great Lakes empty out through that one site. Pictures just do not do it justice.
There are 2 sets of falls. There is the American Falls, and then there's the Canadian Falls, and the Canadians have much better falls. I wouldn't you say?
But I don't understand where the line was, like how because to cross into Canada, you stared at the falls on the other side, so there was the
American Falls were clearly in America.
Yes.
The Canadian Falls look like half of them could have been American and half of them Canadian.
I think we claimed some of those falls.
I don't know, man. So, I think I think we could take over Canada and take those falls because so there's the Horseshoe Falls, right? The ones that you probably see the most pictures of. Yeah. Those are what they call the Canadian Falls, and they light them up at night. And those are the ones. If you're going to go over in a barrel, it's going to have to be the Canadian Falls because there's nothing but giant rocks up underneath the American Falls. Yeah. If you go over in a barrel on the American Falls, then
it's a one-time trip.
You're done. Do we know when the last time somebody went over in a barrel was?
That's a very good question. We should definitely have researched that before this video. Okay. I know when the next time a Billy is going over the falls because I am happy to cheer that on. In no way am I ever going over those jokers in a barrel.
It was. I think the number was between 690,000 gallons and 6 million gallons of water per second went over those falls.
I thought they said it was 697. Oh, like a flood or something?
Yeah, it varies or whatever.
Gotcha.
I guess I don't know, maybe 6 million is the most they've ever had or something. I don't know, but isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I heard the 6 feet. That the erosion makes it 6 foot shorter every year.
Wow.
Isn't that insane? That was just the massive power of that much water is just unbelievable. So very cool. We did the Maid of the Mist.
Yeah, and so they took you. So the Maid of the Mist, it's like $25 or something per person for a 20-minute cruise. And you're like, 20 minutes, that's not going to be enough. I'm going to tell you, they make sure that 20 minutes is just enough. Because what they do is they take you and they basically drive you into the falls to where you're getting soaking wet. And you're like, 20 minutes, I'm good with 20 minutes.
Fine.
No more is fine.
Apologize.
They don't actually drive you into the falls, but you get close enough to where you get good and wet. They they give everybody a poncho, but your shoes end up getting wet, and if you don't have the poncho on, you're getting drenched because of all of the mist or whatever coming off of that. Plenty of opportunities to view the falls from different angles and get pictures. We got that. That was pretty cool. Walking distance from Niagara Falls from the city of Niagara Falls to the actual falls themselves.
Yeah.
No reason to drive unless you're coming in from out of town. And I think that it would probably be a pleasant day trip from somebody coming from Buffalo or wherever. I mean, it wasn't. And y'all's family went to Canada, and the Canadian side looked way more built up than the American side. Was it just because of the casinos and stuff, or what was the...
Yeah, I think that was the preferred,
the view, because you get a better view from that side.
You definitely have the view on that side, and it used to be easy to get into foreign countries. I mean, It used to be even easier when you could just show your driver's license, but then it's passport, and now for Canada we had to have, of course, the vaccine, and it could not be within the last week or 2 weeks. You had to have had some time between your last vaccine shot and coming over. A negative COVID test, this long online form, and your passport, of course.
They were turning a bunch of people away.
They were turning, as we're standing there, I don't know, maybe 10 couples or so came up, and they turned all of them away. So we were the first set of people to make it through. Some of those turned away. We're also doing that long online form that we thought we could get away with not doing. So, but, the guy was really friendly about it. Hey, you've got to do this, but...
Welcome to Canada. You can't get in.
No shot.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's very pretty from the Canadian side. Lots more built up at the falls. I couldn't tell you. We didn't make it past that first street. But yeah, lots of casinos and gambling out there. We didn't partake. We didn't ever get to see inside of it.
So we went up actually kind of early for us, and had a day to be able to do the Niagara Falls thing, and then headed to. It's called Cassadaga Man. The city is actually Cassadaga, New York. And there's other stuff there too, but like other little small towns. It's a pretty small town, and other little small towns around it. But since I guess it was centered in Cassadaga, that's why they call it Cassadaga Man. This is apparently the second running of Cassadaga Man. The first inaugural one was last year, and they actually pulled it off during COVID, so good for them. And then, so we did check in. They had a tent to check in. We got a swim cap. We got a T-shirt. So this is the T-shirt we got. It's a cotton T-shirt. It says Cassadaga Man, and it does have stuff on the back like their sponsors and stuff. But we also got like a beanie or
I have a hat here somewhere. I don't know. I'll put it with my shirt.
We'll get it out later in the video and let you see what it looks like. But the hat was pretty cool. It's embroidered. It looks like what you would use to run with.
Yeah, so in the winter, I'm pretty excited about that.
I mean, you got to figure it's probably pretty cold in Buffalo, and so they probably need hats to run with. What else did we get? We got a swag bag with a whole bunch of little sample stuff.
Yeah, they did good on samples, and then they had a sticker. Iron Man charges
money for it.
$5, and it was included with this, so I was pretty stoked about that.
Race number, standard race number. They were doing body markings the day before.
Yeah, day of. This was only a half.
So no Olympic, no sprint.
No Olympic, no sprint, which was very interesting. Typically with these local races, they're getting as many people as they can. So this guy puts on other races, and this is just his half.
And I guess that kind of makes sense because the transition area was really limited. I mean,
it was a basketball court.
There were, 150 people in this race or something?
I saw a number over 200, but I don't know if that
Well, they had some relays.
Okay, that must have been it then. So yeah, I'd buy 150.
So we'll say between 150 and 200 people. It wasn't a ton of people, but that basketball court was full.
It was full.
And the racking was the most unusual racking that we've ever had, but it worked.
I love that racking.
It was ladders.
No, it was actually that's specifically designed.
There's a speed trap ahead.
There's a speed trap ahead if you didn't catch that.
Yeah, don't worry, we're safely going under the speed limit.
Was this specifically designed as racks?
Yeah, so those are actual racks built. This guy, we need to speak to that. He spent some money on this triathlon.
Yeah, the racks look new.
Yeah, the racks were new, and so they're the rear tire racks. I've only ever had them used in one other race because they kind of take up a lot of space compared to the pole, right? You can get one pole and then two legs.
Yeah.
And that takes care of 5 bicycles. This was, it looked a lot like a aluminum extension ladder. And that was maybe 4 bicycles, but they're at the perfect spot distance apart, and then of course you've got your hole right next to it for your stuff. So yeah, but he spent some serious coin on those things. That's not an everyday item, and that's only the second race I've ever had where they've provided rear bike tire racks.
They weren't marked. You just chose your spot. Whenever you got there, you got whatever, which was kind of strange in that it didn't say. I mean, pretty much you can only put your bike in every other one of those. They have it designed where one bike goes one way and one bike goes the other, and so it leaves a gap in between. But most of his racks were along the edge of the course, so it only had bikes going one way. So if you had somebody put in one bike and then leave 2 spaces and then put in another bike, that wasn't really how it was designed. It was designed to do one and then space and then one. So I don't know. I guess he could improve that by saying, put a bike here. But I guess he could have, if it was a problem, he could have gotten people to move them around. But had plenty of space. You could actually, the way that those things were designed, you could kind of pick a spot that was near the end of one and the beginning of another, and it gave you a little bit extra space. So that was kind of cool. But we didn't get the ride together because by the time we got there that next morning, there were a lot of people there, and there weren't 2 spaces next to each other. But again, 150 people, we were just right across the aisle from each other. It was fine. It wasn't a big deal. Anything else about check-in?
It was interesting. This is the first local that we've had. You could check in your bikes the day before. So
so they had security
on a basketball court, which is really going to limit how big he can get that race.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of other room where they are, but
I guess they could have moved that tent over to about where the playground was, and then put bikes over there where the tent is. But then that's going to kind of mess up transition because they have everybody coming in and out of that basketball court. So maybe that's the only size that he wants. Maybe he wants 200 or less people, and that's what works for it.
Oh, so let's see, bikes check in. That site was interesting. The parking was a little get there early.
Yeah. I mean, they had plenty of parking for the 200 people, but it was kind of spread out. So if you wanted the best spots, then you needed to get there early to get the church or someplace else that was like, a few hundred yards away from transition as opposed to, a half mile or so.
Yeah.
But, I mean, even then, there were plenty of people walking in the day of. It didn't start until, like 8 a.m. or something.
Yes.
It was kind of a late start, which was really surprising. There was plenty light enough earlier.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't start it any earlier. That was a little strange for certain.
I mean, I wonder if they only have the roads for certain times, and those were the times. I mean, usually you'd want to get somebody in and out and have them done. But they didn't have a time limit either, right?
No, this particular race was very interesting and wholly unique. We've not had this before, where there was no time limit. No, that's not true. Michigan.
The Titanium? Because they were doing a full.
Because they were doing a full, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, Michigan had no time limit. This race had no time limit. So it was very athlete-friendly.
Yeah. First timer friendly, too. I mean, if you think that you don't have to push to be in the front of the swim pack. You don't have to, push on the bike to think that you might finish and be worried that you're going to be disqualified or whatever. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, so Jennifer said the last swimmer came out an hour and a half after she went in. And it was no problem. So she had backstroke or side stroke that entire course. So, that is certainly worth mentioning here if you're nervous about your time. But it makes for a much friendlier race than, Ironman, where,
you got to get in and get out. If you don't get out, you got 8.5 hours, and there's, cut-off time for the swim, cut-off time for the bike, and then, 8.5 hours for finishing the whole thing. I guess we can go into the race morning of. Like I said, it was pretty relaxed because it didn't start till 8. We were able to get up and even do hotel breakfast.
Yeah, we did.
We usually don't get the hotel breakfast because.
And we stayed, 30 minutes away? That's.
Yeah. So. like I said, it's a small town, so we stayed in a hotel that was 30 minutes away, and it wasn't a problem. Because not as many people in it, the whole deal. It was good. Got up, headed out. They had an athlete brief. We got our stuff set up in transition. You got body marked. You picked up your chip the morning of. You set up transition. Then they had an athlete briefing at 7:45. Can you think about anything unusual about setting up transition or any of the pre-race stuff?
This was the first pre-race prayer we've had.
Yeah.
I thought was really kind of neat. He wasn't. He was like, I'm going to do a prayer over here in the corner. If you guys if whoever wants to join me, there's no pressure. We're going down to the lake afterwards. So you guys want to jump in the lake? Go ahead. We'll pray right here. That's the first time we've had that, and I really kind of liked the mentality that set. That he's caring about the racers and making sure we're all on the same page. As far as safety and caring for your racers was number one. That was awesome.
So the athlete briefing, pretty much just went over the course, went over major rules that you needed to follow. What they were kind of expecting out of us, but mostly, how the course is marked, how the swim goes, where you need to swim, and then how the bike course and the run course were marked. It was a one-loop swim in a lake. It was a two-loop bike and a one-loop run. And I'm going to qualify that one-loop run with a couple of outbacks. But it was just, you left transition, you did one loop, and then you came back. So that was kind of an unusual setup. Usually we'll have a two-loop run. We've had a five-loop run before. And a lot of times we'll have a two-loop swim.
Mm-hmm.
So good for him for figuring out how to make it where you only did a one-loop swim and one-loop run. The bike, we'll go over it when we do the bike, but having two loops, I used to not like it, but now I kind of like it since we don't ever view the course beforehand. Now you know what to look for the second time. Although if you do find a spot that you don't want to be in, then you have to do it again. Whether it's a hill or a bad turn or U-turn, whatever it is. If there's something you don't like the first time going around, you're surely not going to like it the second time.
Get any better.
So for the swim, tell me about your swim.
It was really interesting. So first, once again, spending money on the race. He had his swim buoys were logoed with Mark Wilson Endurance Racing.
Yeah.
And so he had it emblazoned on each of his swim buoys, which was really interesting. And really did great with swim caps, did not match the buoys. He recognized that the swim back in was into the sun. And I mean straight into the sun. I started just lining up, just sighting off of the sun because you couldn't see anything else. And so he had put out, I don't know what to call that, almost like a pool rope.
Yeah, if you can imagine how when they separate like the deep end from the shallow end of a pool, where you have a rope and every once in a while you have a buoy, that's exactly what and he set that up for. It was hundreds of yards.
Yeah, it was long.
It was long. Not. It was not. Yeah. He said it didn't go all the way, and it didn't go all the way. But that last, the into the sun was 750 yards. I think is what I decided that it was. I think that's what on my watch. Which I was gonna give him negative marks for that because I'm like 750 yards into the sun, bro. You could have just gone out that way and made it a clockwise swim and not had nearly as much coming back in. But the rope kind of saved it, man. Because all you had to do was just slide right off that rope.
Right off the rope,
and if you can't swim straight with a rope right beside you, then you've got problems. And of course, I have problems because I kept weaving in and out of that rope. But it was right there. At least I knew to look for it.
Man, that thing, it once again was translated to me the caring about the racers. Hey, I've got this problem. how can I solve it, as best I can.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you want the race directors to actually do the course themselves.
Yeah.
It was like, this guy has done this course.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, this is what I had trouble with.
Yeah,
how can I fix that for everybody else?
So, great. I'm certain that he must have gotten comments about it last time or has done the race. But yes, he's clearly fixing his issues. I would expect this. We will see continued success off of this attitude. But this was an in-water start. And generally, you don't have traffic when you do that. This particular one, I got a lot of traffic early because there's a swim platform that you kind of had to get around, and so it forced a funnel maybe 100 yards out, and then after that it was back to fine again. Yeah, there's a little traffic on it.
Yeah, he tried. You could kind of cheat up, and I think there were some people that were kind of cheating up, and he got onto them and made them move back. Yeah.
So the carpet, he had 3 segments of carpet coming out, and you were running onto grass, but that still made it so much better for me, right? Because you had gotten through most of your wet, so by the time you hit grass, you're a little drier, and we didn't tear the grass all up. So I'll notice that, because generally I'm not the first to come out on the swim. Right, you come out and whatever you're coming out to is destroyed and soaking wet and muddy or whatever, because nobody's taken that little extra step. So it was a nice little feature that I noticed.
Got you past any rocks that were at the edge of the where you get out of the swim, the edge of the lake. So you hop into transition. Transition was pretty standard. I mean,
so it's a bike in and out is in the same hole door through the fence is really what it is.
So if you were right there by that was going to be the preferred position. But good Lord, it's a basketball court, and there's no real bad spot on that. I mean, as far as no advantage spot.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there is technically, but just about a few seconds. Had plenty of volunteers that were directing you on where to go. You ran out with your bike. You went up this chute up to the road before you mounted. But that was less than 100 yards, I think, total for all of that. And then headed out on the bike. So tell us about your bike experience.
So, like we covered, 2-loop bike. Really, this was 4 main hills is what we discovered through the thing. He talking to other racers.
4 main hills on each loop.
Oh, per loop. Yes, sorry, per loop. 30. We knew coming into this, if you watched our past video, that it was over 3,500 feet of climbing, and I was upset. It was over 3,500 feet of climbing, and
You're not upset?
I'm still a little upset, but it was not as bad as I had it. His climb to his descents or his climb to his rests were reasonable. He is talking to other racers. He is known for hills. He will not do a flat course, period. That's just Mark's thing, and I gotta respect that. Knowing that now, you look at I would look at his races in advance. This is not a PR race. This was not a PR bike, but he did a reasonable job of. The course felt right. It didn't feel like he just found the biggest mountain he could and threw us on it. It was a good circle, and there were long enough descents after the hills that you had recovered before you hit the next hill, with the one exception. So you came up one hill. This is hill number 2, is what I would call it. There was a aid station, so right before the aid station. So then you had a little descent. Then you had a right onto, Kelly's Hill was the name of the road. I swear they were calling it Helly's Hill from the other racers, because that was a tough little booger. That's hill number 3 that you went up on, and that joker, he was not fun either time, but a given, that was the same amount of climb we had for St. Polton, 500 less or so than Blue Ridge. I liked this a whole lot better than Blue Ridge. To be fair, I liked everything better than Blue Ridge.
Yeah.
I actually liked the climbs more than I did in the Alps. The Alps were offset by the views, so there was no real view here ever. You're going through farm country.
Yeah.
My fun story was that we talked to the racers beforehand, and one of them had told me there's a abandoned home or a decaying home that somebody had put a Halloween mask in. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I do the first loop, and I never saw it. And she caught me, or we caught each other on the second loop. And I said, "Hey, where's the Halloween mask? Just stay with me." So she tells me, and I see it. And if you're not prepared for it, it would have scared the crap out of me. It's one of those like Scream ghost masks, and it's in a doorway, and you're just coming around the corner, and you're coming to the right, and so the house is on the left, so I wouldn't have seen it, but for her pointing it out. Yeah, somebody
has a good sense of humor.
I was hilarious because I'm seeing it during the day, but yeah, had I just suddenly noticed that, I just jumped out of my pants. But yeah, good bike. I had a lot of fun.
So, what I liked about the bike was that I ended up only having one, but I had no 5-mile segments that were more than 20 minutes. Okay, so it didn't matter how hard you were pushing up a hill, you weren't pushing up for 45 minutes or whatever. So there were no 5-mile.
Exit 14 toward West Gastonia.
No 5-mile segments that were over 20 minutes until the very last segment.
Yeah.
And so that last hill, I'm riding with a lady, and she's telling me about where she's from and everything, and she was like, "Have you done the course?" And I was like, "No," and it's the first time I've ever been in this area. She's like, "Okay, well, this next 6 miles is all uphill," and she's like, "It's the last 6 miles or whatever before you do it again." And that was true. It was 6 miles, and I wouldn't say that it's all uphill, but it wasn't a steep hill either. It was
just a long grind.
It was just a long uphill ride. And so on my watch, since it's the last 6, I'd already, from 25 to 30 was half of that, because
just time.
25 was half of the 6 miles. So from 20 to 25, you got half of it, and from 25 to 30. So it worked out to where you didn't get it. But the last time you come around, you had the 50 to 55 was all on that hill. So that segment was getting up onto, into being slower. And I don't remember what it was, 23 minutes, 24 minutes, something like that, for me to do that 5-mile segment. So the hill, it was a lot of climb, but it wasn't impossible climb. It wasn't soul-crushing climb to where when you finish with the bike, you...
in a quarter mile, keep right at the fork. Follow signs for
Gastonia.
Take it an exit.
We're driving, and apparently everybody stopped at this exit.
All right, so that climb wasn't soul-crushing. I got off the bike, and I wasn't, exhausted, for the run. I mean, the temperatures were mild, too, but it wasn't cold. They weren't as mild as Maine a week before.
So, for the first time, I forgot my bladder for my bike.
Oh, yes.
Oh, man. So, I figured it out the night before, fortunately. So, we're assembling bikes, because otherwise I would have discovered it the next morning. And just, it wasn't with anything. Oh, crap. So, our system is have a bladder, and it holds 40 ounces.
Yeah, two big bottles,
and then have an additional bottle down I don't know what to call that region, the triangle,
Yeah.
down on the frame.
Where you would normally have a bottle in the bike.
So I had gone ahead and prepared, my nutrition for the bike and just put it in little bottles. Was going to get it on the course at the aid stations, so which worked out pretty well for the most part. The second aid station is in a terrible spot. It is coming. So you've come up this long hill, and then you take a right. There's that's a descent, and then you would take the right there to go to, after your second loop, back to transition, or you continue straight. But I got to the top of that hill, and I'm not thinking about anything else. And then suddenly, like, you took the right, and the aid station's right there. So probably would recommend moving that a little bit. In fact, coming up the hill would be a lot better. Just moving it, slightly to the other side of that corner, where you could see it coming for a long time, would have helped.
So what you're talking about is you had 2 little water bottles with your nutrition in it. So basically the concentrate, and you were going to pour it into the regular water bottle that you would have, and fill the rest of it with water that you get from the aid station.
Correct.
And the 2 little bottles you just stuck in your back thing. So you had to have them with you for the whole bike, correct?
Yes, correct. Well, I mean, they were little bottles, so I got to as soon as I was done with it, I threw it away.
They did have special needs. This was interesting. They had special needs bags.
Yeah,
which
for the half.
you never get that on a half.
No.
I've never had it on any half where you have special needs. And they also had, in transition, a men's and women's changing tent. So you were allowed to change clothes while you were in transition. So that's different. Never had that for a half either.
No, and then, we never mentioned it. Mark gave out his
cell phone number.
Hey, if you guys have any problems, or you're looking to everybody, hey, if you're looking for your athlete and you haven't seen them, here's my cell phone number. And I thought that was super cool, and then I saw it on his website too. So he is not afraid of athlete contact.
So they didn't. You couldn't real time track somebody, but I think that's why he was giving it to family members. And he would see where you were on the course, like which timing thing you had gone over, and be able to tell people, because you couldn't do that on the app or wherever. You got the timing stuff after,
yes,
but you couldn't do it. It's not like the Ironman tracker or some other trackers where you can track somebody real time. But super cool for him to offer that. Hey, don't freak out, just call me.
Yeah,
and I'll find it. And I think really what he was trying to do was to eliminate people going out in their cars onto the course. And now you're inconveniencing everybody just so there's one person can find their athlete.
Okay, so there wasn't a policeman the entire time. Very small town. I think policeman and fire department were the same thing. She's got us going straight. I know. Maybe it is.
Got it to the left and point 2. Yep.
Once again, we're driving. So my second loop, apparently I'm not fast enough. There's, it's an open course, local course at your local race. You'd expect that. Coming through, there's that intersection, one of the intersections that you went through. Mm-hmm. Second time, there was nobody there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you needed to look both ways. There were a couple of them that were like that, where you were like, oh, is there anybody coming?
Yeah.
Because there was one, like you were going around a curve or whatever, and you really you had to slow down.
The trees, were not there. You couldn't see both ways. In suggestions for improvement, putting a volunteer at those spots, making sure that you please have somebody there.
If nothing else, just somebody there to call 911.
Yeah, or just, hey man, you're good, come on, or no, slow down, or whatever we got to do. But somebody there would have been tremendously helpful. But yeah, why they disappeared is a mystery. I'm sure there's a story there, but might have just had to react to something. I don't know, something. But yes, that was not cool. That definitely took some points away.
So on the bike course, typically I count the people that I pass, and so I've had some tough luck recently, especially on these independents, and so This one, I was like, all right, 20 people. I want to pass 20 people.
Okay.
I felt that was a reasonable number. And so, hey, man, you got to be number 20.
Was I 20? That was at mile 15. I looked, which was an improvement over last week. So I'm feeling better about myself.
50,
I was number 20.
I got 55 on this one. 40 of them were on the first loop, and then 15 on the second loop. And I think I had just as many people pass me on the second loop as I passed them. So I don't think I gained any spots on the second loop, but it was that was that was different. I felt like I did better. So maybe that's the deal. Is I need to underestimate how many people I'm gonna pass every race. That way, I feel
20
better.
is 10% of the field.
I know, yeah, 55. Well, you got to figure that every person I passed me in the swim, right? Because I started first, right? I mean, our group started first, so
That's
anybody
true.
that I passed got me in the swim.
Yeah,
there was nobody that I passed that had started after me or started way before me. So what? I mean, that part was kind of discouraging because I was kind of like, wow. I really do suck at swimming. I mean, because I passed a fair number of ladies, and I'm like, yeah, every one of y'all passed me. Every one of y'all are 3 minutes ahead of me. Even with me passing you right here, you're still 3 minutes ahead of me. So that's probably about all the bike stories. I didn't see. I saw one or two people with flat tires, but it wasn't a whole bunch of people that I felt like everybody had overinflated their tires.
Yeah.
I did, as I was inflating my tires, there was one lady sitting beside me, and boy, she pumped that thing up to 130, and I wanted to say something, and I was like, you go ahead and...
Yeah, I watched a guy in front of me in line with the pump doing the same thing, and they tells the guy 130. I was like, oh, man, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
But, everybody's got to learn their own way, and these roads... weren't bad.
No, the 6 mile climb was all on a relatively freshly paved road with a super wide shoulder, so you were able to stay on the shoulder the entire time while cars were passing you. So that was nice.
Yeah.
I mean, because as slow as everybody was going up those hills, you'd have people that were upset about it. And I don't recall anybody being upset that we were out there.
No. I got some friendly waves, so that was reasonable.
So on the run, you went into transition, hopped on the run. I didn't really find anybody to run with. Did you find people to run with?
I ran with some people.
Good for you, man. So the run, it was one loop with two out and backs, and the two out and backs were fairly long. I mean, it was like the first one was like almost 2 miles out and 2 miles back, and then the second one might have even been more than that. I think it might have been more than that, which I kind of like the out and backs because you know where your competition is. You know if you're getting closer or further away from people, but the out and backs were on hills.
Yeah, you were seeing
the first one. You went down the hill the whole way to the bottom, and then you turned around and it was uphill the whole way to the back. The second one, so you finished that, and then you immediately went to another out and back, and so you went out, and it was uphill for a lot of it, and then it went downhill and then uphill. So it ended up being more rolling. But I was thinking, oh wow, on the second out and back, it's going to be all uphill and then downhill on the way back, and that would be kind of nice because as you get towards the finish.
Yeah.
But that's not how it was. It ended up being kind of rolling, and it was uphill and downhill in both ways.
He claimed rolling hills on the run, and that.
You could call that rolling hills. I mean, if you were on that on the bike, you would have called it rolling.
Yeah, but a rolling hill on the run, I think, should have. There was, for me, I got right at 900 feet of elevation change for the run. So generally, my rule of thumb is anything over 400, I'm going to have a bad day. So this was not a super easy flat run. But interestingly, the timing. So you had the timing chip, and they only really had the timing bar close to transition, and of course the finish. When you went on those out and backs, there was somebody recording your number to make sure that you went around the the cone.
Oh, was there?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, they
good
were
for them.
at both of them, at each of the out and backs.
Okay.
So very interesting. I have never seen that. So good for them for, I don't want to spend a bunch of money on timing equipment or whatever those. I mean, I'm sure those radios aren't cheap.
I think at Black Diamond, when we ended up doing, what was it, 3 or 4 loops?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 3 loops around the lake. I think there was a person there with a clipboard writing down numbers.
Interesting.
And I don't know that they were doing that as much to make sure you did it as they were doing it to
Make sure you're okay.
Well, not to make sure you, but if you wondered how many you had done, if you didn't know, then they could tell you how many you had done. But maybe they were doing it for
Both. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's good for them for doing that. I didn't pay attention to that.
There's a 6-minute slowdown on North Carolina 7 East and 1.5 miles. You are still on the best route.
You get GPS directions and a review video.
Hey, all at the same
one.
time. We hit, I don't know, there's some kind of traffic on 85. So our original directions were get on 85, continue until 85 runs out.
Now they got us all, along with everybody else, rerouted along these side roads because there must be a wreck or something on 85. Okay, so on the run, you had the out and backs. It was warmer than I expected. It was sunny. I mean, I put sunscreen on, but I still got some sun. And it was, they said the high was 75 or 76, something like that, but it felt a lot warmer than that. So I don't, it wasn't my best run ever, but it was fine. I didn't hate it. I don't like hilly runs. I mean, I think everybody wants easy stuff, right? If you're doing 70 miles, you want the easiest 70 miles that you can get. I mean, I don't know.
In a quarter mile, turn left onto South York Street.
These local races, to me, are really great for pointing out your faults. So if you treat them a little more like this is a race, but almost a race simulation, like a very serious race simulation.
North Carolina 7 East that is causing a delay. You can avoid it by going via I-85 North, which
now it's taking us back to
I-85. So
all right, so it's it was going to be the second, so just now we go straight. Okay. So we're on the run course. What were you saying?
So, this is a really good Ironman simulation, right? It's a cheaper way of getting that information. Where am I weak? Coming from the beach, I know I can do, I can do 23, 24 sustained on a flat with no wind.
I can do 23 or 24 also, but I got to have a tailwheel.
Especially if I'm hanging behind somebody drafting. But I'm not going to have a good run if I do that. So, learning some of that, how does these hills. So, it's interesting, and I like if you'll use it for that purpose, because you're not going to have a PR on these type of races.
Yeah.
So, everybody likes to get a PR.
And what does a PR mean on one of these races?
I got a PR on one of these races. Yeah. I've done something wrong on an Ironman, for certain, or a flat race.
All right, so finishing up on the run, finish line. I'll let you tell the finish line story, because yours was pretty cool.
Oh, so I'm coming out, and I had this idea, and I knew I would see Billy. Billy was ahead of me on this one, but so can I still injured? No, the injury is still going on, still hurts. Appreciate your prayers and support. Maybe some letters to that guy saying I'm injured. That would help. Actually, prayers, support, and flood his inbox with messages for me, with get well messages for me. That made me feel better. So he's coming back. I was like, hey, will you see if I can cross the finish line with the kids? Some races will let you do that. Ironman will absolutely disqualify you from the race. And small races, you can do a lot of things that you just can't do with 2,000 people. So he checks and I'd see him, and he said, "Yep, you're good to go with the kids."
Yeah, and they were like, "Yeah, if you can send him across early too, they can hand him the medal." And I'm like, one thing at a time.
Let's go easy. So this was their first finish line. This is the first
finish line
they crossed. Yeah. So yeah, picked up and got to run across with the kids, which was awesome. So that was really cool. Thank you guys so much for letting me do that.
Had really, so they had like the catered. This is a small race, but they had catered food afterwards, and catered being like, the dude was cooking it there. He was making hot dogs, hamburgers, sausages, and so racers could eat free, and then family could pay to eat. Had a beer garden where I guess they were giving out. I didn't go, but I guess they were giving out beer.
Yeah.
Was it kegs or what?
No, cans was the only thing I saw.
Okay. It was a really, for an independent race.
Live band? There was a live band playing?
And they had a DJ in the morning that was playing stuff before we did the swim. There was a lot of stuff that not everybody does.
Yeah.
Definitely, he was not trying to do this as cheap as possible. That was for sure.
No, man, it showed the amount of money that he spent on that race.
Anything after the race we can talk about?
No, we took showers. Whoo!
Yes, they're cold.
So that was nice. Jennifer had scouted out that of course we were driving back to Buffalo, which was an hour and a half. So.
We were either going to be in the car with them for an hour and a half smelly, or we were going to get a truck stop shower.
So we needed a plan. So she had scouted it out, and there were on-site bathrooms that had a shower. They did not have a hot water heater, so you didn't have a long shower.
No, it was basically like a water hose shower. Pretty much. Pretty much it was just a water hose shower. It was actually shower head or whatever, but. You're out there with your fanny hanging out for everybody to see. But yeah, it was cold. It was fine though because you got to. We were either going to do that or we were going to stop at a truck shop and stop and do it. And I would have much rather done it there because then you don't have to get in the car sweaty at all.
Absolutely,
you're already clean and good to go. So that was nice.
Yeah. No. So upside to this. I don't think we had anything else. We just really go back to the hotel and jump on the airplane the next morning.
We got up early and went to the thing. So, yeah, that was pretty much the race. We had a good time. Mark was happy to take a picture with us after the race and talk a little bit about the race. So that was nice. And had a good time. Would recommend this race, even though it's a pretty difficult course. I would recommend this race.
So thanks, guys, and stay tuned for our next video.
All right.